Hello and welcome everyone to What's Next, the podcast where we dive a little deeper into life's scarier and sometimes more difficult questions. And today I have with me Peter Schnuda, who is going to talk to us today. Peter is a great guy. I serve with Peter, and he is a personal mentor of mine. I love having conversations with you, Peter, and I'm so excited to have you here today with me on the podcast. So with that,
Thank you.
Peter, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of give us an intro and tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's great to be with you, my brother and dear friend. And yeah, thanks for asking me to come on the show. Yeah, I don't know where to start. As far as introducing myself, my name is Peter, as you know.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say this before, and it was a really great way to introduce themselves. They said, "I'm a child of God."
I
I
love
said,
that.
"Okay, so I'm a child of God, a servant of
Yeah.
God."
Yes.
And as Rafi said, we serve together at St. Mark's
Yeah.
here in Fairfax. And yeah, been here in the DC, Northern Virginia area since 2011. Born in Michigan, raised in Chicago for a long time.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, I came over. My wife, Jackie's from here, from Virginia. And so when we first got married, we lived in Chicago the first couple of years.
Oh, wow.
And then in 2011, we moved out here. So I've been here
Wow.
14 years. Yeah. Crazy.
Wow.
I know.
14 years. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's been wild. Yeah. We have two lovely kids, and yeah, I'm a teacher. I'm a counselor. Got a brother back home in Chicago. Yeah. Both my, just a lot of connections to the different cities. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I love hearing about your time in Chicago and your love for the Cubs as well. I know
Yes,
you've got a special place in your heart for them.
definitely.
But yeah, thank you so much, Peter, for joining me today. I think it's amazing that you've kind of got your hands in a few different things here that I think are incredible. You're a teacher, and you've just finished counseling as well, which kind of
Yeah.
puts you in a very unique position.
Hmm.
I think after college and going through school and all of the kind of challenges that come up um, in college in particular, at least for me, would have been amazing to have a counselor or someone to talk to just like you that can kind of help um, navigate some of those challenges. But I'd love to hear more about kind of why you chose to pursue counseling,
Yeah.
and your time in teaching, and kind of what's that roadmap look like for you? What did that look like?
Yeah. Well, it's a great God story. A long story, but basically, I loved working with kids, and I was coaching at the time as a young adult, and I said, I want to coach. I want to work with kids. I want them to be better. I want them to be equipped.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what career can I do? And I remember people dear to me would say, teach, because they knew me, they
Yeah.
knew my personality. I was like, I'm an Egyptian male. I can't just teach. I got to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, something like
Sure.
that,
Sure.
dentist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was praying about it, and I felt pretty clearly from different things that God was pointing me to teaching. And I
Wow.
got into a program master's program to teach and learn, get my teaching certification. And I chickened out. I paused.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. And I was like, no, no, what am I going to tell Uncle so-and-so at church, what I do,
Oh,
and,
sure.
and I'm not married yet. And, will someone want to, marry a teacher? They want somebody, who makes money
Yeah.
but
All those cultural kind of pressures.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. And so I chickened out and I paused on it. And it was a couple years later where I'm like, am I living for, Uncle so-and-so, or am I like, God
Yeah.
will take care of it. He put this in me. And I didn't learn till later that one of the gifts of the Spirit is teaching from First Corinthians 12. And so I was just like,
Wow.
this is who I am. Like, this is what God made me. So like,
Yeah.
I'll leave the consequences to God. And so
Yeah.
I jumped in. I um, I applied to my old junior high school, be a TA, be a teacher assistant.
Wow.
'Cause before I started a program, I wanted to say, well, will I like this? And I loved it. So I
Amazing.
started a program in Chicago, finished it, started teaching. Um, one of the best decisions of my life. Then I met Jackie in 2008. Actually, we met today,
Oh,
17 years ago.
no way.
Yeah, September 28th,
That's
17 years ago. Now that
amazing.
I think of it, yeah. So
Wow.
right here at St. Mark's too. Kind of that's another funny story. But
Amazing.
yeah, totally from God. And she's a teacher. And so I married a teacher. And so
Look at that.
she loved that because she didn't want me, you know, she liked the teaching lifestyle. I mean, she loves teaching. She's an amazing teacher. But
Yeah.
so it was right what, obedience to God just really led me to um and his insistence really it was more his insistence than my obedience. But yeah, it was, second best decision I made, I say, that teaching and stuff. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I was marrying her. So I did that. And then as I was teaching, then I came out here. Um, Another crazy story, but became I was a principal out here at the church, at the school at the church, Good Shepherd Christian Academy, Little Flock, shout out.
Yeah.
And after a couple of years, the school starts closing some grades, and so I saw the writing on the wall a little bit for me. Thank God they're doing really well right now. It's a smaller school, but we were all the way through sixth grade at the time, and so
Oh, wow.
I felt strongly that God was guiding me somewhere else, and so I applied to the school down the road, Trinity. Another shout out, um, my people over there, and so got the job. Another God story, miraculous. And so
Mhm.
as I was starting out that year teaching, I was approached to be an administrator.
Hmm.
And so the next year I was an assistant principal. And later on, I became dean of students in charge of discipline, basically. So I'd have
Wow.
kids in my office telling me like they'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long before I realized, oh, they're going through some serious stuff, like in their life.
Mm.
They're not that their behavior was totally excusable, but it
Sure.
made sense
Where it was coming from.
where it's coming from
Yeah.
exactly. And so I was like, oh, parents are divorcing, or there's this issue with bullying, or you're having this going on at home, somewhere else in your life, in school.
Yeah.
So oftentimes my meetings with these students and families ended up being counseling sessions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And being totally ill equipped, totally leaning on God in these hard conversations, seeing the goodness of God coming through those.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to be more equipped. And so I approached my assistant head of school at the time and head of school. And this is what I'm thinking that, do you think I need some equipping here? And they go, yeah, yeah, we agree. And so I started a program in counseling. By the way, I started a program in counseling almost 25 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it was,
Okay.
and it
I didn't
was,
know that.
yeah, yeah, I told you it's a long story. But it was secular. And I took one class and then I took a second class and I couldn't imagine counseling and helping people without pointing them to God.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
he's the physician of our souls.
Yeah.
How can I just beat around the bush and skirt around him?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's true.
let's use these very secular ways and these, but we
Mm.
want to get to the root here and who's going to heal
Yeah.
except Christ and his good Father and the Holy Spirit. And so I left that program and then I started another program about 20 years later. And now, thank God, I'm finished with school.
Thank God.
If I started school again somewhere else, my wife would, not be happy. But yeah, so I'm done. And so that's what got me into counseling. Long story, long
Wow.
answer to your question.
No, no, that was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And looking back at my own personal life, um, teachers were always kind of the first uh, people that made an impact on my life outside of home, of course. um, had amazing teachers, and
Mm.
they're definitely the reason that I am here today where I am, you know. Um, so you guys have a very, very important and huge role, to say the least.
Yeah.
Um,
Thanks.
but
Mm.
I also find it really interesting that you kind of found your way around the whole, um, like, cultural pressure to do something that's, like, stereotypical of our culture, you know? And I think this has kind of, uh, been discussed before on the podcast, but it's always interesting to see different people's perspectives and different people's experiences with navigating that cultural, expectation, if you will. So I'm really happy to see and hear that you kind of pursued your passions and your dreams, even if they weren't in line with our, our culture's expectation of what a man should look like or
Yeah.
what a man should be.
Right. Right.
That's really inspiring and really encouraging,
Yeah.
to hear and to see and experience.
Yeah. Yeah. God is so good. Yeah. And we've never gone hungry. Like,
Yeah,
um, we've had the money. He's always taken care of us.
yeah.
We have a roof over our head, clothes, feeding, ourselves and our kids and all that. So
Thank
he's
God.
been so faithful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Been great.
I think that's kind of a testament to trusting in him and in his will for your life.
Hmm.
I think that's a very strong and prominent testament here,
Yeah. Definitely.
which is
Thank God.
incredible.
Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah. Um, well, with that, I think you, like I said, you kind of have this unique perspective, unique position where you have, this kind of counseling background now. So you kind of understand a little bit more about, you know, behavior and emotions and all of these things that kind of go on in our minds,
Hmm.
especially when we're going through difficult situations. So with that, I'd like to know, if you had like one piece of advice to someone who's, really struggling with, school or making a big decision or, choosing a job or, um, you know, we're always faced with these, massive, massive challenges. And sometimes those kind of get to us. Sometimes like we were having a conversation earlier. Sometimes we kind of get stuck in our heads, and we, we dig ourselves into a hole.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm just kind of curious if you have any advice, any insight into, how can we navigate big decisions, big stressors, big, I guess, like, life events that might very easily lead us down a dark path if we don't address them.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's a great question. That's faced, I think, all of us.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, I there's a lot of things the Bible tells us, about decisions. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding.
Right.
In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He'll direct your paths. That's very true. And sometimes, you know, we see that on bookmarks and uh, mugs,
Yeah.
and we kind of take those verses for granted, but it's true. And
Yeah.
I think the first step I would tell people, start with God. Go to
Mm,
Him.
sure.
Um, Pour out your heart to Him, as the Bible says, and and acknowledge Him. This is what's in my heart. This is what I'm thinking. These are my interests, and these are things I'm facing,
Yeah.
and He will direct your paths. And so I would start with God. Then, as you're starting with God, we can ask God to guide us to different people, and
Mm,
people who
okay.
know and who are wise counselors. Now,
Yeah.
I know several, there's a lot of people who go to too many counselors. That can get really confusing.
Mm,
So, as somebody once told me, you got to go to one or two who are wise and godly. Maybe somebody's not godly, but they're experienced and they could help too. God can work through
Yeah,
them too.
of
Hopefully
course.
they don't give you ungodly advice, of
Sure,
course,
sure,
but just
sure.
in terms of like careers or jobs or something I'm thinking.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
oftentimes, if you can, go to one or two godly counselors, father confession,
of
uh,
course. Yeah,
spiritual father, uh, who aren't always the same person. Those could be two different people. Uh, but yeah, I would, start with God and then ask God to guide you to people. I did that with my counseling program, and I went to, as I mentioned,
yeah.
my head of school, and I felt God strongly guiding me toward my assistant head of school at the time, who recommended a school to me, and I finished it, and
Mm,
it turned out to be a really good school for what I was thinking. So
yeah,
um, and then like doing a real assessment of your life and your talents, as we mentioned, like, you know, gifts are a gift of the Holy Spirit.
yeah,
First
yeah.
Corinthians 12. So, um, what did God put in you? And sometimes we think we divorce our, um, talents and interests from anything that to do with God. And no, it's like you have that because God put that in you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the end, he's going to say, what did you do with that? And
Absolutely.
so we want to have a real honest look and talk to people. Like I mentioned, I had people who knew me really well, friends and family, said, you'd be a really good, you're a teacher, you know,
Yeah,
and, um, and that's nothing to brag about because that wasn't me. Again, a gift from the Holy Spirit. So,
sure.
um, really doing a really good assessment of yourself. And some people sometimes say, oh, I don't have any talents. That's not true. You're actually speaking badly about God, not yourself.
Mm,
God gave you and God gives us gifts. So
yeah,
what is that? And then going from there, and sometimes it takes trial and error, I've had many, as my wife likes to joke, I've had many different jobs over the years, and I've started many different graduate programs, and some I've started and some I've had to back out of. And
mm,
um it takes that, and then you get to know yourself a little bit more, so
sure.
somebody can be like, oh man, I thought this was the one and I'm so disappointed. And
Yeah,
don't look
yeah,
at it like that. You're just refining what you need and what is the right fit. Same thing with relationships. Like
yeah,
sometimes it takes being in a few relationships to really saying, you know what, I can't live with this factor, this characteristic, or this
right.
quality.
Yeah,
I think I need this, and this.
yeah,
And it takes a bit of time to see. Uh, and we're often led to those baby steps to get to the points of decision.
yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, so I think it's really interesting the few points that you've kind of brought up, um, in making these decisions because, they've also been kind of a common theme through the previous couple of episodes, and there's this theme of having good godly counsel, whether that's a father of confession or a close friend who, again, rooted in his faith or her faith, that you can kind of go to and ask questions and, seek advice. And personally, like I think if I think back, I think almost every single decision, if not every single decision that I've made that's been major has included all of those aspects. There's that aspect of first go to God as a heavenly father, as a um that's exactly what he is, right? Like a heavenly father, just as you would go to your parents um for advice or talk about your concerns, you go to God first. You lay down your worries, you lay down whatever is on your heart, and then you sit quietly and try to hear his voice,
Hmm.
and he tends to speak to us in all kinds of ways. Like you were just telling me an example of how he uses everyone and anything in our path to guide us in the right direction, right?
Mm.
Um, so sometimes it just takes a little bit of quietness, a little bit of stillness
Yeah.
to hear his voice. And
Yeah.
then on the other side of that is finding people that you trust, people that um, you know have a good foundation in whatever it is that you're seeking counsel in. But I think that faith part is so big, so important. um, it makes such a big difference to have someone who's rooted in the faith, um, where you can go and kind of pick their brains, ask for advice,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
get counsel from, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And praying for their wisdom and your wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah.
James 1 says, ask for wisdom and faith, and God will give it to us liberally, like
Mm,
lots.
yeah. Yeah.
But don't ask without faith, because, and he says it's not gonna be very effective. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
you know, acknowledging to God in a very humble posture of, Lord, I don't know. I don't have wisdom. You have wisdom. Fill me with your wisdom
Yeah.
and give me lots of it. Sometimes I pray, give me the wisdom of Solomon.
Yeah.
I'm guiding someone, I'm guiding myself. I need to find the right words, or maybe I don't need to say any words. Like maybe I speak too much, but give me wisdom.
Sure.
And so I think that's another key step is throughout the process is every day asking for wisdom.
Yeah.
Um, that's a really key component.
So, Peter, oftentimes, when we're making a big decision or we're faced with a challenge, life doesn't quite go as we plan or we think. So, what would you say is, what some piece of advice you would
Mm-hmm.
say is, um, how do you discern like God's will in your life
Mm-hmm.
as you are making those big life decisions?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Good question. I think after a searching for how do I know the will of God, I think there's different ways. And First Thessalonians talks about the will of God is to give thanks in all things.
mm,
And that's not always, I know, at least for me, that's not like the default, right? It's
no,
not the go
not at
to.
all. Yeah.
And so giving thanks to God, one. Number two is in those times, sometimes it's so hard, whether you've had a disappointment,
Yeah.
you thought it was going to go a different way,
Yeah.
relationship, giving thanks for that is really hard, and praying for that person or people who
Yeah.
derailed what you thought was that path. And that's also very difficult, but it will set you free. I mean, talk about, when we hold on to,
Yeah.
whether it's a boss, a supervisor, a person who you're in a relationship with, um, a lot of things that God asks us to do don't make necessarily logical sense to us humans. To God makes perfect sense, obviously. And it's,
Yeah.
again, there's that theme of like in obedience, God really blesses. And
Mhm.
so, just remembering that. But then, I remember Psalm 119. It's the longest chapter in the entire Bible, but it's
Mm.
like the easiest to know what it's about.
Wow.
It's all about, Lord, teach me your statutes, teach me your commandments, teach me your
Right.
ways. They're all synonyms or similar phrases to the same thing. Lord, guide me.
Yeah.
I want to know your commandments, not just your commandments, how you want me to live life biblically, but also like in these situations I'm facing, Lord. And, I don't know if Psalm 119 necessarily, I think it entails that, I don't want to misquote, obviously,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, show me your ways like in my life, guide me,
Yeah.
Psalm 32, guide me. Um, Proverbs 16, he will discern he will give you discernment and guide your ways. So, again, right, like sometimes we overcomplicate it, I think, and let me
Yeah.
know and all these things. But if I'm praying to God, if I am asking God for wisdom liberally in faith, if
Mhm.
I'm asking God to fill the guide me to people of discernment, wise, godly people, and also fill them with discernment and wisdom liberally. Um,
Yeah.
and then also um, if it's biblical, if it's godly, if it's not a sin, trying it and doing it. And when, if it's like, okay, it doesn't work or it's not what we thought, um, maybe God wanted us to learn something on that stepping stone to prepare us for the next stepping stone.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just thought it was destination. I talked before about how I was I was a principal at school,
Yeah.
at the church, and I, naively thought, okay, well, I moved here from Chicago. God guide me clearly God to my wife and I out there, I'm going to be here for 40 years. It wasn't the case.
Yep.
And
Yep.
was I disappointed? Was I sad? All of those things, yes.
Yeah.
Um, but I realized God wanted me to learn certain things and to shape me in that season to prepare me for other ones. And now I see it clearly. Sometimes we're not going to see things clearly like as like that.
Yeah.
There's no promise of that. But a lot of times God is so sweet that he does. I mean, he's always so sweet, but he gives us that grace where we see, oh, that of course I had to learn this, this, and this to prepare me for this.
Yeah.
And he's so
Yeah.
good like that.
Yeah. I've definitely had many situations like that. Um, the one that pops into mind right now is, um, I moved from Texas right after I finished undergrad, and I started working up here in Maryland, and then I moved down to Virginia. But in my head, like I was gonna be here for 1, 2 years tops, and then I was going home
Mm-hmm.
because that's where I belong. That's where I was comfortable. That's where my family is, where my friends are. That's where I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Fast forward, it's now been 5, almost 6 years that
Wow.
I
We've
have
had you that
not,
long.
I
Stole you
have
from
not,
Houston.
yeah, I have not gone back home. I mean, I've gone back to visit, obviously, but
Yeah.
I don't live back home.
Mm-hmm.
I live here. And there was actually one time about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago now. I was starting to look for jobs. Now, mind you, ever since I moved up from Texas to Maryland, um, I was in the job market and I was trying to my best to go back to Texas. Um, but it never really panned out. Never really worked. Um, Fast forward about 2 years ago, I tried again. I was kind of at the end of my time with the Navy, and I knew it was time for me to move on and to find whatever is next for me. And I applied to a job that was in Dallas. It was next to home. It was perfect because I was going to be close to family and friends and everyone that I knew. Um, and for a long time there, it was between three different jobs. It was between the job in Dallas and two jobs up here in Northern Virginia. And I just remember I was so set on this job in Dallas. Like I had already started to make arrangements for the move. I was like calculating, okay, how am I going to get home? How am I going to move all my stuff? How many days is it going to take? Um, and this company like kept me on the line or on the hook for a week to, until they responded to me. And all the while, I'm also communicating with two other companies up here, trying to buy myself some time because I knew regardless, like I had to leave the Navy. It was just a matter of will I stay in Northern Virginia or will I go back home? And in my mind, I wanted to go home. And it was set. It was done. And then they came back and said, "Hey, you're not quite ready for this position. So maybe try again next year." Um, and so that at the time it was kind of disappointing. It was very hard to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it ended up being ultimately a blessing for multiple reasons. One, um, that company would have been very difficult for me to flourish in, just from a company culture perspective. And I got that just from the interview. Um, but I was willing to take that step if it meant going back home. But I know now it would have been very difficult to flourish in. Um, and I guess more obviously too, I've built a community here. I got married here. I now have, you know, a very, blessed life thanks to God. And thanks to kind of trusting in his way and in his will. Um, and yeah, it's not what I had in mind, but I'm very, very happy
Mm-hmm.
that things worked out the way that they did. And
Yeah.
it's all because I kind of trusted in his way and in his
Yeah.
will, you
Yeah.
know?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. Thank God.
Mm.
Thank God. How would you say you balance trusting in God's sovereignty with making wise and intentional choices for yourself?
Yeah. Um, I heard somebody say, I heard this a few months ago, maybe even a year ago or so. But Lord, don't let me be deceived, you know?
Hmm.
And I think that really helps. So again, it starts with God.
Yeah.
Go to Him for wisdom. Um, be willing to be led by other people with wise, godly counsel.
Yeah.
And also j- taking an assessment of the situation. Taking in as many facts as possible.
Yeah.
I'll tell this to people who are looking at schools. I say it's not too different than shopping for a house, for a home. Like,
Mm.
granted, there's different stakes a little bit, but
Yeah.
you're gathering as much information as possible.
Right.
You are, um, talking to people who may know,
Yeah.
people maybe ahead of you a stage or two in life, whether they've older kids or whatever. But
Sure.
you're gathering information,
Yeah.
and when you see that, you know, my heart, I want my will to conform to the will of God's.
Yeah.
And and God knows I'm well intended, and it's meant for good and not evil and all these things. And I'm in the information gathering stage,
Yeah.
and not to the point where I'm, paralysis by analysis, not where I'm gathering
Yeah.
so much where I can't make a decision, but I'm gathering enough reasonable information so I
Yeah.
can take the next step. And when I see those next steps, then I put it into play, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and then God, out of His love, He guides. Like, for example, as we were talking earlier about jobs and stuff like that, and I looked at a school out here years ago that
Yeah.
I thought I was, I did. I didn't tell you this part. I did kind of like a pros and cons list,
Mm.
and the pros at this school outweighed the school that I ended up taking a job at.
Oh, wow.
And but the job of this school with the pros,
Yeah.
they ended up, I thought they were going to offer me a job. They didn't. And I said, oh, well, there goes that list. And so, but as you mentioned, I'm so happy. Like, thank God,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
God. So in the information gathering stage, always handing it over to Him and saying, you know me better. You know what's best for me, my family, for people.
Yeah.
And so He guides from there. But yeah, definitely information gathering is huge,
Yeah.
and good
Absolutely.
intent, obviously.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't make a decision without knowing all the, or at least a lot of the facts. That's
Exactly.
very
Yeah,
true.
we may never know all the facts, but as many as I can know, then
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, yeah. I think whenever I was, you know, graduating and about to start working, obviously it was mid COVID and everyone kind of stopped hiring. A lot of the hiring was paused, which is kind of why I ended up in Maryland.
Yeah.
That's just where I could find a job. But even then, before I had accepted the job, not that I had options, but even then, I was starting to look for the things that are important to me, and the first thing, um, regardless of where I go, first thing I always do is I try to find a church. I try to find some place where I can go and practice my faith, build a community, because that's ultimately where I tend to build my friend group, my community, and where my life outside of work tends to um, tends to occur. It's at church, which is a
Hmm.
big thing.
Yeah.
So that's always the first piece of information I like to gather about a new place.
Hmm.
I spent a summer I did an internship in Florida, and it was the same thing. New place, no idea about anything or anyone. But the first thing that I like to do is find a church, find a church. Um, and then you go into all of the pros and cons, very similar to what you were saying, Peter.
Hmm.
Pros and cons list. Um, And sometimes the pros and cons list gives you great perspective, great insight into a decision, and sometimes they're not the end all be all either, you know?
Hmm.
It's kind of a balance. Um, but kind of to build off of that, my last question is, um, over the years and over time, how do you now view setbacks or detours or I guess um, when things don't go your way or how you envision them? How do you see that
Yeah.
in terms of your faith? Um,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah. It's a great question because it still can haunt you, even if after things turn out well, and, it's easy to be like, oh, I regret that. And I
mm,
wasted years on that. And I shouldn't have done that. Or I should have done this. And that is something that should be avoided. Um, God allowed us to pass through that time.
mm,
There may have been very good reason to. Um, did it purify us? Did we learn from it? Et cetera, all of the above.
yeah,
Um, Maybe it was a pain that, no, I don't see any good from it. And it was a trauma and it was horrible. Um, our trauma doesn't define us. We start at the cross and end at the cross. We start with God and end at God. He's our
mm,
identity. And
yeah,
sometimes we let our setbacks and experiences become our identity. We've often heard things like maybe I am who I am because of what I've been through. And
mm,
that's partially true. Yes, has it shaped our experience, our schema, our knowledge, our this and that? Absolutely, of course. And that
yeah,
should not be taken lightly.
yeah, yeah,
And um, my identity is I'm a child of God, and I want to get to the goal that it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And He's my identity. He's my healer. And He's my physician, and He is my hope
yeah,
and my goal. He's the way, the truth, and life. So
yeah,
when we reframe it, not in a positive light, but in the true light and in truth, that I bring those to Him and I put those at the foot of the cross and I say, Lord, use these things. I mentioned a story earlier to you about how the one catalyst, maybe more than that, shaped me more than any other experience is a young man years ago in college who questioned me on my faith. He was not a Christian
yeah,
and he tried to test me on my faith and I could not answer him. He
mm,
posed an issue to me that he found in the Bible. And I went back and I couldn't answer him. And I went back and I looked at it and I said, oh, that was out of context. He actually misquoted that. But
mm,
it started me on the path of reading the Gospels and reading the Bible to know my faith.
yeah,
And if it wasn't for him, I don't know where I'd be. So God used him. God uses all things and all people and all circumstances. And I mentioned, I'd give that guy a big hug, even though he was trying to dismantle me and my faith.
yeah, yeah,
He was the person. God used him to catalyze more than a servant, more than any
wow,
person I can really think of, besides my parents, raising me,
yeah,
and my brother, you know, how to walk in the Lord. So, yeah, these setbacks don't define us. They definitely influence. They have a huge mark in our life. But
yeah,
I'm going to look at these setbacks. I'm going to put a foot across and say, Lord, redeem it, redeem the time. And how do you want me to use this? And God is the only one who can take garbage and make it gold.
wow,
He takes garbage and makes it into gold. And He's the only one who can do that. And there's a beauty in it. For my own life, we don't know, for example, if we go through a hard time or something, I don't know true joy until I've seen the valley
yeah,
and I've been through that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's a sweetness like now laughter is sweeter.
yeah,
Good times are sweeter. I make the analogy, if I have a buffet every day, I'm not going to really appreciate a buffet.
very
But
true.
man, my family and I go to Great American Buffet or whatever it's called in
Yeah,
Manassas once in a while. We're like, this
yeah,
is great.
yeah,
Or we
yeah,
go on some vacations. And so, um, you know, those pits can really help appreciate the sweetness, the sweet times, and again teach us a great deal, and be there for others who are going through a hard time. So there's so many
yeah,
benefits, and only God can do that. But we just need to give that back to Him and forgive ourselves. We talk about forgiveness a lot. What about forgiving yourself? Move through that.
yeah.
Don't regret it. Say, okay, God, thank you for that time, and redeem it.
Wow, I I'm speechless. I love that. And I think had I kind of had that perspective a few years ago, wow, just wow. I think I'm just starting to think in that way. And it's a game changer for sure.
Mm,
But I
mm,
love what you said. It's not that we're looking at these things through a positive light, but no, we're looking at these through a true light.
mhm,
And we're starting at the cross and we're ending at the cross. Like this is the goal.
mhm,
This is the path to our salvation. And yeah,
mhm,
I honestly I couldn't have said any
mhm,
of that better
mhm.
myself.
Thank
I think that was perfect. Nailed it.
Yeah, I've had a
Nailed
lot
it.
of great teachers in my life to guide me in those ways, and so, yeah, grateful. Thank God.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I personally love to reflect back on um, some of my more recent struggles, even
Mhm.
recent challenges. And when I look back, I start to realize like, wow, yeah, no, those were like blessings in disguise, or those were amazing life lessons that I would never have learned any other way. You know,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I think you're right. I think reframing the lens that we view those challenges or roadblocks or what have you in can
Mhm,
make a massive difference.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And because we have to be careful, because sometimes when we think of our bad experiences, we may unintentionally or intentionally, but oftentimes unintentionally let those define us to the point where, well, I'm like this because of what's happened to me, or I've said, or I can say
yeah,
this because of what's happened, and it almost can give us an out. And so,
yeah,
yes, I don't doubt that whatever situation we may have been through is horrible, and God can redeem it and help us through that time through lots of prayer, lots of
yeah.
work of the Holy Spirit. But we God can redeem us and heal us. And He will.
Amen.
Well,
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much, Peter. I
thanks,
appreciate your time here today. I appreciate
thanks.
your insight and your wisdom, and thank you so much for joining the podcast. And as always, if you guys haven't subscribed already, please do. It's a great way to stay informed on future podcasts, future topics, guests, and yeah, I hope that you kind of got something out of this conversation today that you can take with you and um, apply to your life. Um, and yeah, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. God bless.